I already know that this is something that many of you guys can relate to, but let's dive in. I personally put comic book fans in two different tiers. You have the nerds like myself that read a lot of comics, the guys that know a lot about these characters, the guys that are heavily invested in the industry and spend a lot of money and effort paying attention and being knowledgeable on things that take place in comics. Now, these guys tend to collect prints, but in the digital age, they may do that too. We also aren't without error, right? If you take DC and Marvel, for example, there's so many different comics over the years, so many different runs, different series, headliners. The little arguments and debates that we have over the events that took place in those comics are actually part of the fun. The second tier are those guys that don't really keep up with the comics at all, but they've watched TV shows and movies based on the characters, and many of them grew up watching cartoons based on the characters. Now, let me be clear. I gotta say that there's absolutely nothing, and I mean nothing wrong with being in either of these tiers. I'm not this comic book elitist or gatekeeper, if you will. I do want the industry itself to grow, and I want more people to be a part of it in whatever way that they can. I just don't want them to ruin it in that sense. And now in this digital age, it's more accessible than it ever has been. And generally you get people that are in this second tier that are awesome people. I get a lot of them asking me questions about some of the source material. But over the last years, there's been a third tier that has crept up. And they are the worst of the worst. They tend to be these social justice types, though not exclusively at all, but at least I'd be willing to bet that most of them lean that way. And these clowns don't exist for any other reason other than to ruin what already exists. They almost all have never read any comics, but they all pretend like they have because they can Google a lot of that information nowadays. So they'll throw themselves in online conversations pretending to be these experts. The first time they were introduced to most of these characters were by way of cartoons or live depictions, and they become these experts by the next day after they were introduced. These people don't give a shit about canon continuity or source material. In fact, they will advocate against all of those if it means pushing their agendas. Now, for the vast majority of fans like myself, we care about that stuff. We want accuracy. We want, accuracy certainly in live depictions. When they cross over, we expect solid writing in comics. So random race changes, unbalanced political or social agendas, lazy writing, or just drastic changes to unique established characters is something that doesn't sit well with us. But that's all on the table for this new tier. They aren't really even fans and have absolutely no connection to the comics. They just maybe know of the characters. This is why they'll say things like, "What's the big deal?" when you call out inaccuracy and live action depictions. It's just fictional characters, they say. Yet they'll Yas girl all over Twitter the minute Iris West went from being this redhead white woman to a black chick on screen, and the excuse almost is always, I like it, get over it, it's good. They can still act, you idiot. Sure, you can cast Jean-Claude Van Damme as Black Panther, right? And use this excuse of different universe changes or timelines. That way Black Panther is now some white guy from South Africa. With a lot of money and solid actors, you can make a good movie out of this. This doesn't mean that the initial change wasn't stupid. It was stupid, and that's because now Black Panther is nothing more than this loose depiction. He's Black Panther in name. It's not accurate. This is why when we say Starfire sucks in the Titans, it's not that the actor can't act, it's that the character isn't Starfire as we think of her. She doesn't look or act like Starfire, even though she may be doing a decent job. It doesn't even mean that the show itself can't be a good show, which I'd say that it really isn't, but it could be a good show, but that doesn't mean that it's accurate. The characters just share the name and lose depictions of established comic book characters. And all of this is fine for this newer tier of lames because they never cared for the comics in the first place. They don't read them, they don't buy them, and you already know there's going to be that one white knighter, right? That was a comic book fan, but they think of all this whackness as permissible because they get sort of thumbs up from that crowd, not understanding that he's the outsider, right? Then you get those other non-fan NPCs that use the same defaults, reading from the same script, strawmanning positions. Oh, you're against social justice? You must not have read the X-Men. Bro, shut the hell up. You morons don't even understand that X-Men proves your ideas to the contrary. If Professor X and Magneto represent, let's say, Malcolm X and MLK in the civil rights movement, this proves our point. That is that you can address relevant topics in comics without being a friggin' cornball. But why on earth would these people not say something so self-defeating? They don't read the comics and they ain't buying the comics. Everything they know about it is something they Googled 5 minutes ago.